The Supergirl trailer just dropped, and look, I had opinions before I even finished watching it. A drunk Kryptonian, a space road trip, a Jason Momoa on a bike, and a dog that might be dying. Is this the movie that finally makes people care about Supergirl, or is it the DCU already setting itself up for its first stumble after Superman? We're going to find out. Let's go. Welcome back to the Review Talks, and I'm Tanveer, and today we're going to be reviewing the news trailer that just dropped, Supergirl. Supergirl Women of Tomorrow. Releasing June 26th this year, and if you haven't seen the trailer, go watch it, come back, and then let's get into it together, right? And but before we do, let's give you a bit of a context on where this movie is coming from, because the source material is actually very important. The movie is based on the comic Supergirl Women of Tomorrow, the same name, right? It's an 8-issue miniseries written by Tom King and illustrated by Bilkis Efley, published in 2021 and 2022. And honestly, it's considered by a lot of people to be the best Supergirl story ever written. Tom King is known for these dark character-driven comics, and Mr. Miracle, Strange Adventures, and Human Target. And this book actually fits right into that legacy, right? And then the story takes place entirely in space in this comic. Kara Zor-El, that's Supergirl, is in dark place emotionally. She remembers Krypton. Unlike Clark, she has actual memories of what was destroyed. She grew up there. She was supposed to raise her baby cousin on Earth, but showed up decades late, and by that time he had become Superman. So without her, so she was thinking like, what was her sacrifice even for? And that's kind of the existential weight this story carries. And into this walks Ruth Marie Knoll, a young alien girl who wants to hunt down a villain named Krem of the Yellow Hills for murdering her father, right? And the Krem also poisons Crypto, Supergirl's dog, and that's what gets Kara off the bar stool and into the fight. And two of them travel across the galaxy together, and the whole story is really about justice versus revenge, grief, and what it means to survive when everything you love is gone. And of course the bait and switch in the comic is really well known. Like one of the details is if the movie keeps it in, it will be a divisive moment. In the comic, Crypto getting poisoned is actually a manipulation. Later on, Supergirl reveals she made it up or she exaggerated it to convince Ruth to travel with her. The whole emotional hook that kicks off the journey. A beta switch by Kara herself is Tom King being very Tom King, right? And the question for the movie is, do they keep that twist, or because if they do, it recontextualizes everything, right? And what is not in the comic, right? Everybody knows that Lobo is not in the comic, right? He in the movie I like Jason Momoa as Lobo, and the thing is even though he wasn't in the comic, Tom King actually had publicly stated that his original pitch for this story was to actually Lobo and Supergirl team up. And it was inspired by True Grit, the Western, right? And Lobo was going to be this drunk, morally questionable Rooster Cogburn type, and Supergirl would be the Mary Ross, the determined young woman on a mission. But his editors at DC said no, and they had to take the Lobo out and make Supergirl the Rooster Cogburn character. And honestly, that decision actually made the comic what it is, right? And it put Kara at the center, gave her the complexity, the dark humor, the weight. So James Gunn bringing Lobo back into the story is kind of like a restoring Tom King's original vision and that what if version of the comic basically. And it's a fascinating creative choice. And from the trailer, it looks like Lobo is probably playing more of like an anti-hero role here, possibly teaming up with the Kara at some point. And that's actually a departure from what Lobo is in the comic. He's not exactly a helper, right? He's chaotic, violent, and only trustworthy because he keeps his word. So there's definitely a risk of softening the characters for general audience here, right? Yeah, we'll see about that. But let's break down the the trailer beat by beat. First up is like you see the trailer opens up with the yellow sun on a spaceship window. Immediately we know that we're in space. Superman does a brief cameo, right? And is reaching out to Kara, telling her, she needs to stop going off worlds all the time because it's not helping her situation. And Kara's response is like she tells him that she has basically no people, right? Because Clark grew up on Earth and he has a family, a community, and a purpose. And Kara lost everything. Arrived too late to even matter, right? So that's the emotional core right there in the first 30 seconds. And then we get the destruction of, Crypto. Kara's father saying goodbye as she's launched into the space. And then all of a sudden we see Crypto, right? And then we cut to Kara at the bar, visibly drunk, Crypto barking at her. This basically matches, comics exactly. She's on her birthday, hammered on a planet with, red sun, so she can actually feel something. She can't get drunk on Earth because of the yellow sun, right? And so she travels to places, where she's not powered up just to feel human, basically. And that's literally heartbreaking when you think about it. But yeah. And then next scene is then we see her landing on a planet. We meet the villain Krem and his role in Ruth's backstory, and we see Krem shoot Crypto, which is like inciting incident. That gets the Kara off the sidelines. And then there's a scene, where Kara actually walks into the bar, guns immediately pointed at her, and then she just says, "This is not gonna end well for you guys, right?" And that's the tone of the movie right there, right? Little dark, little funny. And then the action sequence happen. This looks solid, and then we get Lobo, and Lobo looks good. It's way better than the earlier teasers. Everybody knows they didn't like the look, like it looked off, but this time actually looks the part. They fixed all the aesthetics. They fix probably did more VFX at the back, right? And then there's the banter with Kara. There's honestly a sequence at the end on like is a highlight of the whole trailer basically. And then we also get like a funeral scene. Someone close to Kara dies, and we see young Kara with young Crypto with the line, "There is no home without you." Emotional, emotional gun punch, right? And the trailer, ends with like a slow motion shot mirroring Superman, saving someone, because it's Kara protecting, that young girl, Ruth, and multiple times in the trailer. So that's probably your, Mary Ross thing. That's probably the heart of the story. And yeah, that's the whole trailer. So what did I think? Like, did this trailer actually make me jump out of my chair? No. Did it make me feel I absolutely need to be in the theater on opening day? Also no. Was it bad? No. It was fine. It was solid, right? There are like a general emotional beats in there. The tone is consistent. The story premise is clear, but it didn't have that moment. That one thing that makes you stop scrolling, rewind, and watch again. Superman's trailer had that, and this did not. I honestly part of that is the character Supergirl. I'll say this honestly directly, right? It's not as universally loved as Superman and Batman, right? Even among comic readers, she's polarizing. A lot of people respect the character, but few people are like actually passionate about her. The mainstream audience doesn't have that deep attachment with her, right? So the movie needs to actually work a little bit harder to pull people in, and I don't think this trailer fully does that job. Maybe for you it did, but for me it did not. So that said, like, I don't think this movie will bomb, right? It will do decent numbers. It'll find its audience. People who go and like open-minded will probably enjoy it. But Superman numbers, I don't think so. Like, this is not a Superman level in character in terms of mass appeal. So that trailer reflects that, right? I will eventually see it, not day one, but I'll eventually see it. And Jason Momoa as Lobo is like perfect, and that actually might make me go see the movie sooner. The casting is perfect for him, right? The energy is perfect. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this movie is gonna do well. The trailer was solid, I'm gonna say, right? Yeah, it's gonna do well, right? Like, I heard it's like a $100 million budget and probably 150 because of issues and everything. Maybe it's gonna make $300 million. Yeah, we'll think about it. Like, we'll see. And then where we have we'll talk about the cast, right? The casting, as everyone knows, Millie Alcock as Kara Zor-El. She's Supergirl, and her. Everyone knows her from House of the Dragon, right? And James Gunn literally said he saw her in that show and immediately thought of Supergirl. She's got the intensity, she's got the edge, and she can carry emotional weight in a way that this character demands. So she was the first name on Gunn's list before they were even greenlit. Basically, that kind of confidence in a casting choice usually it pays off. If someone you can do well, it pays off. And then Jason Momoa as Lobo, the main man himself. Momoa has publicly said, Lobo is his dream role. He's been campaigning it for years, right? This is his transition from the DCU's Aquaman to the new DCU. And from what I've seen, he fits, right? Lobo is like a walking contradiction, brutal, chaotic, but with a strict personal choice. Momoa has that energy naturally, the accent, the attitude, the physicality, it's all there. And then we have the villain, Matthias Schoenaerts as Krem of the Yellow. He's a Belgian actor. I haven't seen him much, so I don't know how he is, but from the trailer alone, he does look right, menacing, he's not a super villain per se, but a brutal mercenary type, who kills without consciousness. I think the guy, from what I've seen, can pull it off. And then we have the Ruth Marinol, who is played by Eve Ridley, and she looks like the co-lead of the story, right? And she's the young alien girl who sets everything in motion. In the comics, she's also the narrator, but the whole story is told through her eyes, right? Looking back, yeah. And Eve Ridley, she's a newer face, so let's see. I don't know, maybe she can carry it from the trailer. I don't see anything wrong with it, so we'll see. And then we have Zor-El, David Krumholtz. He's the Kara's father. Brief important role for Krypton's flashback sequence. Krumholtz is a character, an actor with a lot of range, so good fit for this emotional scene. And then we have Allura, which is Kara's mother. She's in the flashback sequences. Emily, Beecham previously, she actually worked with, on Cruella. So there's already a relationship there with the director himself. And then obviously David Cornswet as Clark Kent. He's gonna be in there, brief cameo. They did say that he's gonna meet Kara before she on Earth, maybe when she lands. So we'll probably see that in the movie. And this actually ties into the the main DCU continuity. And then the composer is Claudia Sorn, from what I hear. So let's see how it goes, right? And where does that leave us, right? The trailer is fine. It's okay. For me, it's not a must see right now. I did not see any must see moments. For you, probably, guys, right? I don't know. It has a great source material behind it and a cast that actually well chosen. So the story for people who go in and give it a chance, so should hit emotionally: loss, grief, survival, revenge versus justice, right? And Lobo is basically the wild card here. If they get him right, this movie has a scene stealer. If they play him too safe, too heroic, they'll probably disappoint comic fans. The trailer leans kind of him being an anti-hero ally, which is probably a risk, but I do like his energy. I think Jason Momoa is having time of his life, and maybe they'll do that bait and switch moment as well that is in the comic. And if they do, we're gonna have a lot of opinions about it. Let's see, right? And the bottom line is, like, I think this movie will be good for people who go into willing to meet in where it is, right? It has that uphill climbing convincing Calvin, but their time and money. But yeah, now I'm waiting for June 26th. Let's see how the reviews come in from other people, right? And yeah, that's it. That's it for me. And let me know, right? What you guys think of the movie? Like, what you guys think if this movie is gonna land? Is Jason Momoa the right Lobo? Drop a comment down below and follow me on X or on Punjabi Gamer 86 and find me on Spotify, Tanveer Talks Official. And as always, peace.